I was thinking about the purpose of dreams. Now, there's a wide range of perspectives that people have. There's the perspective that they are just random stories in your head that you experience when you're falling asleep and have no meaning. There are many people in that camp that think there's nothing to dreams, nothing significant to them. Then there's the camp of dreams are your unconscious talking to you, which I used to say that for years, that that's what I thought it was. And I realized that's kind of pointing at the truth, but I think there's a more sophisticated way I can explain it. And that's what I've tried to come to this week. Now, Freud's idea about dreams was that they are all about he called it wish fulfillment. So what a dream does is it shows you the desires that you're currently repressing in your life that you are wishing to fulfill. And Freud was a very messed up guy, right? He thought that a lot of psychic life was about sexual gratification. So he thought a lot of dreams were just symbolic narratives and imagery trying to get across to you, or this desire for some sort of sexual gratification manifesting in a dream and some kind of symbolic story. But it could be, I don't know, some situation in your work life or in your relationships. And Freud said that the dream is where you fulfill that wish. So, I don't know, you could murder somebody in a dream, and that is a reflection on your wish to have power over other people in your work life or something. Freud saw it in a very symbolic way. Interesting. Now, I'm not saying that's 100% accurate, but I think there's some truth in it, that sometimes our desires in life appear to us in dreams when we don't want to address them consciously. I think that happens. But then there was this guy called Farebairn, who had this quote where he said, dreams are, and I quote, dramatizations of situations in internal reality. Right, what does that mean? So that means that there's a conscious you that experiences life, and there's like the internal you. And the situations that the internal you experience can't really be explained in words, and it's not always easy for that information to pass through from the unconscious to your conscious ego. And so what the dream is like a story, a narrative, a movie, a dramatization of what's going on in your unconscious internal life, to sort of let your conscious know, let your ego know of what's really going on, rather than what they would like it to be. And as I've put in this point, providing alternative perspectives to the ego. You think something is one way in your life, and a dream kind of dramatizes what's really going on. And that, a lot of that is unconscious. A lot of that is the shadow, the things that we don't want to look at because they're uncomfortable or they cause us anxiety, etc. Now, I'll finish up by using one example. I started to realize, as I was writing about it, that I've been having a lot of recurring dreams about bridges. Now, whether it's me traveling from one bridge to another, from one place to another using a bridge story, or seeing a bridge that leads to sort of a big set of fog. That was one dream I had of this big bridge that just, you couldn't see the end of it. It was just fog. And I had another dream the other night that I went to Disneyland, but it wasn't like Disneyland on Earth. It was like this massive bridge that led to this new planet where everything was like a massive theme park type thing. And I was like, why am I dreaming of bridges? Well, from a Freudian perspective, maybe I'm dreaming of bridges because I'm trying to fulfill the wish of leaving my current reality. I want to get away from my current situation, whether that be a feeling psychologically or an actual physical circumstance. But if we look at it from Fairbairn's point of view, that it's a dramatization of internal reality, maybe I feel like I'm on a bridge right now. Like I feel like I'm either between two distinct life chapters, or I'm on the bridge towards what I really want in life. I'm on a bridge towards making it as the guy that I want to be. I'm on the bridge towards becoming that higher self. Or I exist on a bridge. Joel Clifton exists on a bridge between the human realm and the spiritual realm. He feels like he has 1 foot in each, and he's on that bridge. Does that make sense? So I've developed my perspective on what I think the purpose of dreams are, and that's a little example. So what do you think?
Very interesting. I think who knows what the interpretation of the bridge could be. For me, from hearing it, it seems like you're crossing the line between what you were and who you're going to become. Kind of doing that now. I just want to get a bit more understanding about the kind of points and what you said you think dreams are. So it's your reality reflected to you unconsciously, whereas before you thought of it as like a Jungian, unconsciously still, but maybe more sort of desire. I know that's Freud, more desires and.
Yeah, so I do think it's still the unconscious communicating with you, but I've sort of made my perspective on that more sophisticated. So you've got your ego, which is whatever you refer to when you say the word I, your conscious you that exists out in the world, right? And your ego has a set of beliefs about reality, the way it thinks things are, right? And the ego is very defensive and very anxious and doesn't like uncertainty and doesn't like change. It doesn't like its beliefs about reality to change because that makes it anxious, right? That's the kind of link. And Fairbairn's point was that dreams are how the mind creates a narrative to explain to the ego what's really going on inside. So let's say, I don't know, let's use an example. Let's say you aren't happy with your current life circumstance, you hate your job, or you're in a relationship that's toxic or whatever. Your ego might convince you that, or your ego might exist with this belief that things are okay, ignoring the dragon, brushing the monster under the carpet type vibe. Whereas you might have a traumatic dream, and then that's a narrative or a use of imagery and a dramatization of what's really going on to try and confront you with that alternative perspective that things aren't actually okay. Does that make sense? It's showing you how things are rather than how your ego wants them to be. That was what the article was about.
Yeah. So, because for instance, like, there are different types of dreams as well, because there's the actual going to sleep dreaming, and then there's also you daydreaming in the day about some future self that you're going to try and achieve. And the way that you put that just then, if you're daydreaming about some future self that you want to be, then, which I think that's a normal thing, I do it, and that would suggest that that's talking to your ego about what he's got to get done, and the real sort of inputs that you're going to have to get done, because it's not just the ego, because you then kind of reflect on that and you think, well, yeah, I'm a bit lost actually. I will also say, I haven't had a bad dream in ages, so...
Neither have I, actually, since I was a kid.
Yeah, like, it's been a couple of years, so maybe that might say something. I mean, if you're getting bad dreams, does that mean you're doing stuff wrong? Like, I used to...
Well, if we take this perspective, if you have bad dreams, there is something in your internal reality that's not right, that you're not addressing, for whatever reason. That might not be your fault, but I think it's true. I think you've got big dragons in your life. They will appear in your unconscious, and your unconscious is sort of the manifestations of your unconscious, which dreams are a key aspect of that, and daydreams are the same thing, and I think it's true, man. And maybe, you know, I used to have nightmares as a kid. I remember they were recurring, spiders and this one sort of, I remember this lady, who's kind of like, have you seen 101 Dalmatians? There's this Cruella de Vil figure who's like this evil lady that wants to steal the dogs to make clothes and stuff. There was always this female character that would appear in my nightmares, kind of like Cruella de Vil vibe. And that was a recurring one throughout my childhood. I haven't had those dreams ever, like, since I was, I don't know, 8 years old. It's interesting.
You said internal reality. That is kind of a reflection of, but wouldn't, like, sort of watching a horror movie and then having a bad dream about that kind of be an external thing?
That's a good question. You watch a horror movie and then have a nightmare about it.
But then there's the reason why you're scared about it, which is internal.
Yeah, that's stumped me a little bit. That's a good point. I mean, why do we find horror films scary? We know the things that we're watching aren't real. Like the clown that eats children doesn't actually exist. You know, it's a fictional story written by Stephen King, right? But for some reason, it terrifies us. You see, that's an interesting point.
But it's also an individual thing, isn't it? Because, like, you wouldn't get scared about the same thing necessarily 10 years later, and different people get scared about different things. So is it really the thing that's scary, or is it you that's being, or is it your fear?